All right, the Reds, it's the preview show. Liverpool v Southampton. It's actually a 3 o'clock kick-off on Saturday for once. So a good one for the traditionalists. I've got some traditional Liverpool fans with me to have a chat about it. Rob Gutmann, Paul Cope. I mean, the Reds were great in the week against PSG.
Yeah.
And I just think, in a way, I think, this is my theory, I think that's helped us massively because I just think we did something with Peter Crouch the other week and he was talking about dressing rooms at the best are brilliant. He said it's almost like a party. And he said it's great to be in there. And I was thinking about that comment and I thought, well, it must have been great to be in that dressing room after PSG, after winning in an injury time. Conversely, Southampton concede a last-minute penalty to Brighton, draw 2-2, having led 2-0. I mean, just those simple facts straight away. You think Liverpool 6 out of 6. Southampton, I think it's 1 they've won so far in the league. And also, it just seems awful to be a Southampton fan right now. Like, they've only won 1 league game at home since November 2017. So the fans aren't buzzing.
It's probably us as well.
The team aren't buzzing. They can't play Danny Ings, who slotted 3 goals for them. So what I'm saying is it seems all good for us and not so good for them.
Yeah, you've jinxed it right there. I mean, I did my preview piece on the website, and I've done all that jinxing. We are so good at the moment. You know, it's all a bit scary. You know, at some stage this bubble gets burst. Just not Saturday. I'm not ready for that. I'm noticing the odds are heavily in our favour with the bookies. So I'm all kinds of compo bets I'm putting on for us. Yeah, I saw their game. They were actually quite good for best part of an hour, I think. They go 2 up. Ingsy, he slots a penalty, and it looks like they could actually win 3 or 4 and kickstart their season, but they blow it. They concede 1 straight away. The thing you said about the dressing was really interesting. We previewed that PSG game together, Gareth, and I wasn't so sure whether we should just relax a bit, treat it as a free hit, because we're all about the league at the moment. But we went for it. We treated it like it was a semi virtually, and as you say, the reward is a dressing room that's on fire. So long may it continue. Hooray for us.
The other thing, Copey, as well, is the sort of the psychological aspect, if you like. And if you wind back to Klopp in early days, and when he was moaning about people streaming out the ground when he lost to Crystal Palace, the first game he lost as Liverpool manager. He was talking about them, wasn't he? All the doubters into believers stuff, about the team believing it can win, about the crowd believing it can win. That's happening now. That's happening all the time at every Liverpool game. Southampton, again by contrast, they've now dropped 26 points from leading positions in the Premier League since the start of last season. That's a huge problem, isn't it? Because even if they get ahead, that is in their heads as a team, as a collective. They're going, we normally fuck this up.
Yeah, and well, the bigger problem for them coming to somewhere like Anfield with the form we're in, it's 2 ends of the spectrum, isn't it? Because they did that against Brighton at home.
Yeah.
So it's not like, when you're 2-0 up against Brighton, with greatest respect to Brighton, you're not thinking, oh, these are dangerous, these are going to pull one back. Who have they got? Glenn Murray up front, or he's a danger man. You're not thinking like that. You're at home, things are on top, the crowd look quite buoyant. So to throw that away, then, I've just mentioned this on a Talking Reds with Neil, people forget, we've talked about this with Steve Warner, people forget for some reason the footballers are human.
Yeah.
And they've all got their WhatsApp groups going on in the same way we have, and they're all doing the same thing. There's no way they're not going to each other.
We shite lads.
Oh God, what was that then? Brighton are shit, blah, blah, blah. And now we're going to play Liverpool. What will that be like? Oh, we'll just see if we can get out of there, to be honest. There's no way in a million years their players are nothing, especially as you say, I'd forgotten Ings can't play.
Yeah.
So even that, it's like, well, we can't score goals. There's a lad now who scores goals. Great. Is he playing? No. Okay. Who are we playing? Well, this side. What have they done? 6 on the bounce, done Spurs away, just beat PSG. They'll have all watched that. Yeah. There's no way they're not watching that game. And it all sinks in. I was chatting to someone about Thomas Tuchel this morning. Even at that level, if you saw his post-match interviews after PSG, he was saying it jokingly, but he basically said, oh God, this has happened to me before. Next time a team comes here, they're probably best not bringing me. And I thought,
did he say that?
Fantastic. If he ever has to come to Anfield again, we should be getting messages to all his players saying, even your boss doesn't think you're going to win. You're going to lose in the last minute.
Yeah.
And it's the same with any of this. It sinks in just slowly over time.
Have you noticed he looks a bit like Phil Neville? With a comb over. Just the point that has been bugging me all week. Yeah, I totally. Southampton should have. It'd be a nice problem for them to have, to be taking a lead, to surrender against us. They wish. Oh, yeah. I think it does tell you something about them. What did you say? 26 times last season.
26 points since the start of last season. They've dropped from winning positions.
It says they got into winning positions quite a lot, which makes you wonder, are they slightly better than their positions and their points take suggest? Maybe they're a player or two away. Maybe Danny Ings is the player that turns them back into a mid-table
There's another
side.
one which I haven't got written down, so soz, but there's one around Mark Hughes as well, that he never gets back-to-back wins. Like he's struggling to get back-to-back. This was the same when he was at Stoke as well. And so you kind of feel like it's a bit of a struggle. You mentioned the odds as well. Liverpool are 9-2 on to win this. Draws 13-2, and you can get 17-1 on Southampton, which is absolutely mad odds. Some of the stats that I crunched before, I was just having a look about sort of on average what Liverpool are doing at home in the league so far. They're averaging 61.8% possession, 88.7% passing accuracy, and they're having on average 20 shots a match. So you can I think we can all see how this game's gonna go in terms of what Southampton are likely to do, what Liverpool are likely to do. How do you think that's going to sort of influence the lineup that Liverpool could go with?
Well, we're right in the thick of this 7-game run now, aren't we? That we've all been talking about for the last couple of weeks. And he does have to be, he's constantly thinking about the rotation, but so far he's managed it really, or what's the word, organically to a game. So we hardly notice. And I think you'll see that again. We got this genuinely a bit of a free hit, to use that phrase again, in midweek with Chelsea in the League Cup before that big game against them next weekend. So again, as we've said the last couple of games, I think there are kind of no-brainer changes for him. Does he go all out attack because it's Southampton and we're going to... we're going to be on the front foot. I think our lineup is an all-out attack lineup anyway. I think there's a strong possibility he has to bring in Naby Keita again. Yep. He left him out, I think, with a view to bringing him back in. And Milner and Wijnaldum seem to be playing every game. There's got to come, and really, people sort of joke about like a new signing. Those two are like new signings, even though Milner both were hinting at it at the end of last season. But one has to get a rest one of these games soon. Henderson probably doesn't need a rest now. So one of those two has to drop out. I think Bobby Firmino did get a rest and managed to have a 10-minute cameo where he wins us a bloody massive Champions League game. So that's the best way to be rested. Yeah. So I think he comes back in. So maybe the only change is Naby for one of the midfielders.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there an argument as well, Kopi, about, I mean, everyone keeps talking about, us included, about, is there a game where all of a sudden you see all this rotation? Isn't there an argument here to say maybe you don't again? Because Chelsea, you could just literally drop a completely different 11 in. And then they've got 7 days until Chelsea away in the league, which is a 5:30 kickoff next Saturday.
Yeah, well, we were saying in the second look video after the weekend that I was saying that that's a perfect game to do that, to rest everyone basically and bring your second 11 in. But off the back of the PSG game, and I don't know whether they'd look at it like this. You always hear the same sort of line peddled out that we just take one game at a time. It wouldn't surprise me if they picked their team for Chelsea away and work backwards from that. That's the way I approach lots of things in life. How do you sort that out? How do you get those lads in the best condition for that game? Because we've got 2 reasonable home games there. And people might question that about Chelsea in the League Cup, but it's the League Cup. So everyone sort of dips a little bit in the League Cup, whether they rest players or not. Eden Hazard isn't going to be playing away at Anfield in the League Cup. Even if he's there thinking, well, I'll be at full pelt in this, he'll be thinking about the next game in the league. So I think there's potentially an argument now, and this is off the back of a few things from PSG. Sturridge playing and doing well and scoring a goal. Shaqiri's cameo appearance. Keita didn't play. Fabinho got on for a few minutes. I think with the way this squad is going now, which is really exciting, the Henderson performance for one, coming in and being, you could see it was like, well, when you come in this team now, you've got to perform. Yeah. You don't have the luxury of having a 7 out of 10 performance, especially in that midfield area. So there is a potential argument for him to say, well, I will change 3 or 4 for Southampton because we can still beat Southampton by changing those 3 or 4 because we can still play a relatively strong team against Chelsea midweek then and change it again for the league the week after. And if he does it that way, you might end up looking at those 2 games, Saturday and is it Tuesday or Wednesday, and thinking they're not, I was going to say not far off our strongest team. There's already a question mark about what's our strongest team, isn't there? Because we just beat PSG, who were a really good team, by the way, without 2 midfield purchases from the summer, who loads of people assumed would just stroll into this team.
And Firmino.
£90 million, and without Firmino. So what's your strongest 11 even now? And he's in a really good position for that.
It's a great place to be. And how will Southampton try and stop Liverpool, and what will they do to try and get something out of this match? Well, Neil Atkinson's had a closer look with his tactics board on what they might do.
Southampton's late draw against Brighton doesn't so much give Mark Hughes a different quandary, but it changes his circumstance massively. If Southampton had won that game, they'd have been looking at back-to-back victories, they'd have been looking at themselves in the top half of the table and maybe even feeling like a top half side. This has been the situation Southampton have been in for 2, 3, even 4 years. Do they stick? Do they twist? Are they a top half side? Are they a side who's just got to worry about getting to 40 points? And a lot of that sort of filters into this approach for this game that we're going to get to see from Southampton. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed I've not yet put my final Southampton counter onto the board. The reason for this is that I think we can be pretty certain as to how they're going to line up to a point. So you're going to have Cedric, Vestergaard, Hoyt, Bertrand, El Nouisi come from Bâle, worth keeping an eye on. Really good numbers, scored 1 and 3 for them last season. Holberg, who scored that belter, which I don't think's had the praise it deserves the other night against Brighton. And then you've got Lamina, who had a really good start to the season. Nathan Redmond. They've been starting Shane Long to do everybody's running for them. And they've had Danny Ings, but Danny Ings can't play against us. And even if Ings could play against us, would you go 4-4-2 at Anfield? Would you open this much of this pitch up at Anfield? It does not feel like a bold move, and a move a lot of managers might not try. But if he did have Ings, he'd be looking at his informed striker, and Long, he'd be looking at someone who could stretch the Liverpool defence. He could make that argument. If he doesn't have Ings, which he doesn't, then he's got Austin, who's not yet hit his mark this season. He could go with him, or he's got Gabbiadini, who he did bring on the other night. So he can do this. Obviously, straightforward. We all know what a 4-4-2 looks like. These are two really good centre midfielders who'll sit in and battle. Will that be enough against the Reds? I wouldn't have thought so. So what he could do is he could play Romeu, but he's bombed Romeu out. He looked good at times last couple of years. He's very much a traditional holding midfielder, and he could drop Romeu in there and have Romeu be the one who looks to break up a lot of what Liverpool do and see if he can get Lamina and Holberg maybe offering a bit more of a threat to the Reds in this half of the pitch. Holberg has already scored 2 this season. Lamina is good at taking people on in tight spaces in the middle of the park. I think he'll err towards the latter, but that gives him his next problem, which is Shane Long. Shane Long is a workhorse. Shane Long is a footballer who will run channels for you. He'll be committed all day long. His record in front of goal is well publicised. We know his record in front of goal. That's not to be rude about him or disrespectful. He's undoubtedly a phenomenally gifted footballer. But when it comes to the very highest level, he hasn't quite got where he will have wanted to get to in terms of his goal return. But what he could do is harass Liverpool, push them back and create space. I think if you're Mark Hughes, this is your toughest selection of the season so far. I don't think there's any easy answers. Does he back his team? Does he back the approach that's got him to where they've got to this season after having played 3 at the back a lot in pre-season? We'll find out. That's the selection to keep an eye on. Will it be another forward to play alongside Long? Will it be someone instead of Long? Or will it be Romeu and Long? If it is Romeu and Long, Liverpool could be in for an afternoon where they're trying to deal with a Southampton side who are first and foremost trying to stop them, trying to get to the 60-minute mark and go from there.
All right, thanks to Neil there. And, just looking at Southampton and how we've sort of got on against them in recent times, if you like. So last season, obviously, did the double over them, 3-0 at Anfield, 2-0 at St Mary's. And Liverpool have kept a clean sheet now in the last 4 Premier League matches against Southampton. So any idea that these are any kind of bogey side, I think, has well been dismissed by now. And they've won 3 of their last 19 Premier League visits to Anfield. The record is 1-3, drawn 6, lost 10. Their last victory here in September 2013. So I think all of that just adds to a little bit what we were talking about before in terms of the confidence from everyone now. And for me, there was something in the way we beat PSG and the way Anfield was and everything, because I wrote something about it this week about if you wind back to under Brendan Rodgers, I think we'll all always give him credit for the 13-14 run in the league and that sort of stuff, but his record in Europe wasn't great. And if you think about when we played Madrid at home in 2014, for me, there was almost everything was wrong with it.
Yeah.
The attitude of the crowd, the attitude of the players. There was basically a red carpet rolled out, and they came in, they were 3-0 up at half time. The first time it had happened in Liverpool's European history. We're in such a different place to that now. And I don't know if have you read the quotes from Virgil van Dijk?
I saw them, yeah.
Where he's basically saying we want to win everything, and he's going balls out now at this stage of the season and saying we want to win everything, and that's what you want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he says in that Virgil way that no one can say he's being utterly boastful, because he talks about it as if it's fact.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about we are the big noise as far as the media is. I've never known a time, I think, apart from back in the golden age, where neutrals talked about us in such glowing terms. Our normal enemies on the internet across other websites who shan't be named are even glowing about Liverpool at the moment. It's almost to the exclusion that you sort of feel, hang on a minute, are you sure? Because I feel they're building my expectations up only to have them shattered. Because we're sort of a slightly traumatized fan base in that we have these expectations. To actually think they might be realizable now is a little bit scary in a sense. There's still a big part of me, and it sounds like a pessimist, looks at a fixture like Southampton and goes, yeah, we should blow them away. Yeah, we're in amazing form. But bus parking is bus parking. God, we've seen it work against us down the years. And there is only one tactic you can take against this Liverpool side. Did you hear there was an interview with Carvajal last season for Swansea? They beat us, didn't they? And he said, Liverpool are Formula One, so we're going to make them go through London traffic at 5 p.m. A famous analogy and a good analogy. Yeah. And that's what Southampton will do. And I think a lot of it will be how fresh those legs are, what Klopp sees in training. We all will.
But we've got loads of different types of cars to try and get through it now, though, haven't we? We've got decent ones on the bench.
We've got like James Bond car that's like cutting things and flying cars and all sorts. So yeah. Look, I think we're much better designed as a team to get through a low block than we used to be. We've got fullbacks who get on the ball, because everyone's following all our lads in narrow who whip balls in, as we saw the other night, and then crowd scenes in the box, things can go in off. Southampton are going to have to be tremendously lucky to get something. That's the bottom line. But it can happen. It's football.
The quality of the crosses going in now as well, isn't it, Kobe? I mean, the cross from Robertson in the week is absolutely amazing. Like the technique to do that, and it's right on Sturridge's head. And I think he says Messon, doesn't he, in the interview afterwards, like you couldn't miss. Yeah. But also there was a little thing in there, a little takeaway where he says there's some kind of competition between Robertson and Trent about crossing. Never went into greater detail than that. No. But that's interesting in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going back onto the thing you said about Crouch before and the best dressing rooms. And as soon as I heard that as well, I was like, that's really good. And even the way Sturridge was saying to Robbo, I've done you a favour there because I've helped you in your comp. So that goes into training the next day, and all the photos you could see of them the next day. You mentioned it on Twitter. It looked fantastic. They all looked so happy and they're hugging and they're like
Moreno. He's such an ambassador for the lads who are left out of the team, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. This is how you enjoy not playing in this team while it's doing really well, and that all factors into everything we're talking about. And on the what Southampton will do, going back to the Hughes thing. I think Mark Hughes is a really weird manager, because the way to be a brilliant manager in the modern era is to be like Pep and Klopp and be brilliant at that, or to be like Tony Pulis of old and Mourinho at a higher level and be brilliant at that. And what you sometimes get is these managers in the middle who sort of have aspirations to be like Klopp or Pep, but they're not good enough. Yeah. And that for me is Mark Hughes. And what he's managed to turn, he did it with Stoke and now he's sort of doing it with Southampton. They were struggling anyway. I think Carragher mentioned this on Sky, that Southampton used to be a tricky fixture. Yeah. When Pochettino was there and Koeman, it was like, one of those where you're like, yeah. And now it's almost turned into
we'll be all right. Yeah.
We'll be all right. What do they do? And this is something, it'd be interesting asking Stoke fans, what do they think? Because they all moaned when they had Pulis but they had an identity then. Yeah. We all hated going there. All the big teams did not like going to Stoke. Similar thing with Southampton. But now it's just become I don't know what they do. Even if they play the low block, I don't see them doing it well enough to stop all of the different options we've got of breaking through.
Well, Virgil van Dijk, if you missed it, says, we know the season is very long. We have 4 competitions to play, but we want to win everything. That's basically our mindset. Otherwise, you'd better stop. He also says, if you're going to be on the pitch and you don't believe, then you better stay at home. I'm loving all that, and I think when we all go to Anfield on Saturday at 3:00, we should adopt the Virgil mindset, get behind the Reds. It's not as big a game as the PSG, it's not under the lights, but it is 3:00, it is Saturday. There's time to have a bevy, there's time to get in the right mood for it, there's time to go in there, sing and shout, back the Reds, let's get 3 points, let's make it 6 in a row in the league, 7 in a row overall. Up the fucking Reds, that's been the preview show.